What I'd like to do now is continue with the problem we were looking at earlier in that first video. We were looking at the function f of x equals x cubed minus 4x on the interval of negative 3 to 2, and we want to find the maximum and minimum values of that function, that interval. So let's have a look at our calculator. Here's the graph of the function. And we had already identified what we thought were some maxes and mins in the last video. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to find maximums on the calculator using the max and min function. So you press second trace button, which is the calculate menu, and they're well named. We're going to go to maximum, hit enter. And the calculator will ask you for the left bound. So you go left of where you think the maximum is occurring. So you can see the cursor. Right now it's near the maximum. I'm going to go a little bit to the left of that. I'm going to hit enter one time. And then it says right bound, so I move over to the right where I think that maximum is occurring. I hit enter. It says for guess. You can guess if you want. You don't need to. Hit enter. And here we are. We have a maximum y value of 3.079 at x equals negative 1.155 if you round correctly to the third decimal place. So I'm going to go back to my notes and record that. So we have a maximum at x equals, let's just remember, negative 1.55, negative 1.155 of y equals 3.079. Now, if we go back to the graph for a minute, we look at where that maximum is. That's actually the highest y value we see on the graph in this domain from x equals negative 3 to x equals 2. So not only is that a maximum, but we can call that the absolute max value of the function in the interval. Let's go back to the calculator. What I'd like to do now is it looks like around x equals 1, there's a minimum. So we're going to go back to the calculate menu. I'm going to go to number 3, which is minimum. Hit enter. And we're going to move so that we're just left of where that minimum seems to be occurring. Hold down the right key on your calculator, and so forth. Doing this on the TA89, if you have one, you'll press F5, which is the same menu as calculate on the 84, and that will give the option for max and mins. Instead of saying left and right, it'll say upper and lower. Sorry, I say lower and upper bounds. Lower means left, upper means right. Hit enter, and here we go. Asking for a guess. We don't really have to. And we have a minimum y value of y equals negative 3.079 at x equals positive 1.155. So we have a min at x equals 1.155 of y equals negative 3.079. However, we cannot call this minimum an absolute minimum. If we look on the graph, we can look to the far left of the screen, like where x is negative 3, for example, and if you want, you can hit trace and type negative 3 enter, and you'll see a y value of negative 15. So what this means is that while we have a min at x equals positive 1.155, and that y value is negative 3.079, it is not the lowest y value this graph attains on this interval. So therefore, we don't call this an absolute min, we call this a relative min. Okay? Just based on what we just said, we can say this: we have an absolute min at x equals negative 3 of y equals negative 15. And there's one more thing to consider. If we look on the far right of the screen at x equals 2, we can hit trace and do 2 enter. You can see the cursor flashing on the right side of the screen. At x is 2, y is 0. This is actually what we consider a max, because as the graph comes in from the left side of this point, it's increasing to that point and then just stops. So we call that a relative max. The reason it's a relative max is because we know already that we had a higher y value before of positive 3.079. So that'll be the last statement that we can make. So we have a relative max at x equals 2 of y y equals 0. Okay, so that's how you use the TI-84 graphing calculator or the TI-89 graphing calculator to find the relative and absolute max and min values of a function. In this particular case, f of x equals x cubed minus 4x on the interval negative 3 to 2 on an interval. Okay, thanks for watching.